Pain, that was the first sensation that flooded his consciousness, not a specific localized music pain, but an all-consuming agony that seemed to emanate from his very cells. Kane's eyes snapped open, pupils dilating against the harsh sunlight filtering through dense foliage above. He gasped, drawn in air as if he'd been submerged underwater for hours. The forest around him was alive with sounds, chittering creatures, rustling leaves, distant calls of animals he couldn't identify. Everything was too loud, too intense. His senses felt raw, overexposed. The smell of damp soil and decaying vegetation hit him like a physical blow. Each breath brought new information. The mustiness of fungal growth, the sweetness of nearby flowering plants, the acrid tang of something burning in the distance. Kane pushed himself to his feet, muscles tensing with unexpected power. A wave of dizziness threatened to topple him, but it passed quickly. He looked down at his hands, large, calloused and stained with dried blood. Not his blood, he knew this. Instinctively, the dark crimson flakes had seeped into the lines of his palms. Under his fingernails, evidence of violence he couldn't remember committing. He examined his body, finding himself dressed in strange, tattered clothing, a form-fitting black material unlike anything he could name. It was torn in several places, revealing unmarked skin beneath, no wounds despite the blood that covered him. He had no memory of how he'd gotten here, no memory of anything before waking up in this moment, just his name, Kane, and a rage that simmered beneath his skin, threatening to boil over at the slightest provocation. A snapping twig brought him to full alertness. His body reacted before his mind could process, dropping into a defensive crouch. Movement felt practiced, automatic. His fingers curled into weapon-ready positions. 6 figures emerged from the dense underbrush. They wore some kind of armor, gleaming plates that covered their torsos and limbs, helmets with dark visors obscuring their faces. They carried long spears with serrated tips. Their movements were coordinated, practiced. Hunters, target located. One of them said, voice muffled by his helmet, approach with caution. Remember protocol. Specimen 7 appears disoriented. Another responded, opportunity to implement containment procedure. Kane didn't understand why, but something primal inside him recognized these armor and beggars being used as threats. The rage that had been simmering suddenly exploded into a white hot fury. His vision tunneled, narrowing to focus only on the approaching threats. His heartbeat accelerated, and with it came a surge of power unlike anything he could comprehend. What happened next occurred in flashes of ballet clarity. Kane moved with impossible speed, closing the distance. Before the hunters could react, his hands found the weak points in their armor as if he'd studied it for years. He tore through metal and flesh with equal ease. The first hunter died without a sound. His neck snapped before he could raise his weapon. The second managed to thrust his spear forward, but Kane caught it mid-strike, wrenched it from the hunter's grasp, and drove it through the eyes of his helmet. The remaining 4 spread out, trying to surround him. 2 fired projectiles, small darts that Kane somehow knew contained sedatives. He dodged with inhuman speed, feeling the air displacement as they passed within millimeters of his skin. Tranquilizers, ineffective. Switched to energy nets. One shouted. Kane didn't give them the Chance, he grabbed the nearest hunter by the leg, lifting him as if he weighed nothing, and used him as a weapon. Against another, the sound of armor crashing against armor rang through the forest. Both men lay motionless after the impact. The fifth hunter deployed some kind of mesh that expanded in the air. Kane caught it and tore it apart, then leaped forward. His fist punched straight through the hunter's chest, plate through flesh and bone, emerging bloody from the man's back. The last hunter turned to flee. Kane pursued, overtaking him in seconds. He grabbed the man by his helmet and slammed him against the tree with such force that both armor and skull cracked open. Screams filled the air. Blood spattered across the forest floor, painting leaves and undergrowth with crimson droplets. The scent of it filled Kane's nostrils, feeding the rage that drove him. When the fury subsided, all 6 hunters lay in pieces around him. Kane stood in the center of the carnage, breathing heavily, his body untouched by their weapons. He should have been horrified, but all he felt was a cold satisfaction and confusion. How had he done this? What was he? Are you a god? The small voice startled him. Kane whirled around to find a child, a girl no more than 8 years old, standing at the edge of the clearing. Her skin was a pale green, her eyes large and golden with vertical pupils like a cat's, not human but humanoid. She wore simple clothing made from some kind of animal hide, and her feet were bare. Her hair was woven into intricate braids adorned with small, colorful stones. What? Kane's voice sounded rough, unused. You fought like the ancient warriors from my mother's stories, the girl said, taking a tentative step forward. She seemed unafraid of the carnage around her, or of him. You tore through the metal men like they were nothing. Kane looked down at his blood-covered hands again. I'm not a guy, I'm just a man. Girl stepped closer, her gaze moving from Kane to the dismembered bodies of the hunters. My name is I. Those are the same kind of warriors who took my mother. Her golden eyes welled with tears. Mighty man, please help me. My mother was taken by enemies. Help save her. Something in Kane's chest tightened at the child's plea. Here was purpose. Here was direction in a world where he had none. When did they take her? He asked. 3 sunrises ago. Icy Clear's throat replied, wiping her eyes with a small green hand. They came to our village while most were hunting. They took my mother and some others. The elder said not to follow, that it would bring more danger, but she looked up at him, her small face set with determination. But you're strong enough to save her. Kane nodded slowly. Do you know which way they went? I pointed eastward toward the great flatlands. I've been following, but I'm slow. She hesitated. What's your name, mighty man? Kane, he replied. Kane, she repeated, testing the name. Will you help me find my mother? He looked at the destruction he had wrought, then back at the small, green-skinned child. The rage inside him had quieted, replaced by something else, resolved. Perhaps, yes, he said, I'll help you. His face brightened immediately. We should take their weapons, she said, already moving toward one of the fallen hunters. The metal men have strong tools. Kane watched as she fearlessly approached the mangled body, searching for anything useful. She extracted a knife with a gleaming blade and held it up triumphantly. This will cut through anything, she declared. She continued her scavenging, collecting several small devices whose purpose Kane couldn't determine. He joined her, examining the hunter's equipment more methodically. Their spears were unlike any weapon he could recall, lightweight but incredibly strong with tips that seemed to vibrate. Subtly, he took one, testing its balance perfect. He also claimed a utility belt containing several pouches and what appeared to be a water container. We should go, he said after they had gathered what they could carry. There might be more of them coming. I see. Nodded, slipping the knife into a makeshift sheath on her belt. I know safe paths, she assured him. Follow me. She led him deeper into the forest, away from the scene of slaughter. Cain followed, his newly acquired spear held ready. The child moved with surprising confidence through the dense undergrowth, occasionally stopping to examine markings on trees or rocks that were invisible to Cain's eyes. How far is your village? Adi asked as they navigated a particularly steep incline. 2 days walking, Icy replied without looking back. But we're not going there. We're following the metal men who took my mother. Shouldn't you return to your people? It's dangerous. My mother is all I have, I interrupted, her voice suddenly hard. My father was taken by the metal men last season. He never came back. I won't lose her too. The determination in her voice silenced Cain's objections. He understood her resolve, even if he didn't fully understand the circumstances. As they traveled, darkness began to fall. The forest canopy blocked much of the fading light, creating a premature night. Beneath the trees, Cain was about to suggest they make camp when Eve suddenly stopped, her body tensing. Someone's coming, she whispered. Cain strained his senses. At first he detected nothing, but then he heard it, the faint sound of movement through the undergrowth. Is too deliberate to be an animal. Multiple somethings approaching from the south. Hide, he ordered, pushing Icy toward a hollow beneath a fallen tree. The girl disappeared into the shelter, but not before saying, "Be careful, these might not be metal men." Cain positioned himself behind the massive trunk of a tree, spear ready. The sounds grew closer, at least 3 individuals moving through the forest. They weren't trying to be stealthy, which suggested either confidence or carelessness. When they came into view, Cain saw that they weren't armored hunters. They were green-skinned like Icy, but adults, 2 males and a female, carrying primitive spears and bows. They wore garments similar to Ice's with additional decorative elements, bone necklaces, feathered adornments. Hunting party, Easy whispered from her hiding place. From my village. Before Cain could respond, one of the hunters stopped, sniffing the air. Blood, he said to his companions. Much blood. They readied their weapons, moving into defensive positions. The female noticed the hollow tree and approached cautiously. Wait, he called, crawling out from her hiding place. It's me, Icy. The hunter's attention snapped to the child. The female rushed forward, kneeling to examine her. What are you doing here? Everyone is searching for you. She checked the girl for injuries. Are you hurt? I'm fine, Lyra, I replied. I found help to rescue mother. She turned toward Cain's hiding place. Cain, these are my people. They won't hurt you. Reluctantly, Cain stepped into view. The reaction was immediate. The 2 male hunters raised their weapons while Lyra pulled Icy behind her protectively. What is that? One of the males hissed. It looks like the Sky People, but different. He's my friend, Icy insisted, struggling against Lyra's grip. He killed the metal men who tried to catch him. He's going to help me find mother. The hunters exchanged glances, clearly skeptical. The taller male addressed Cain directly. You, what are you? Why are you with our child? My name is Cain, he replied, keeping his voice level. I found I, or she found me after I was attacked by armored hunters. She asked for my help finding her mother, who was taken by similar hunters. The metal men took Nema and others. Laura confirmed, though her suspicious gaze remained fixed on Cain. But why would one of your kind help us against your own? I'm not one of them, Cain said, though doubt crept into his mind. He looked similar to the hunters he'd killed, at least what he'd seen of their faces, but something felt fundamentally different. I don't remember who I am or where I came from. I just woke up in the forest before they attacked me. Hunters conferred quietly among themselves, occasionally glancing at Cain. Finally, the taller male stepped forward. I am Tak, lead hunter of the Eastern tribe. This is Lara and Vex. He gestured to his companions. We were searching for E when we found tracks of the metalmen. We followed, hoping they had not taken her too. They didn't take me, Icy said proudly. I was following them to find Mother. Tak's expression softened as he looked at the child. Brave but foolish little one. The metal men are dangerous. Their weapons can kill from a distance. Their armor resists our strongest spears, but not Cain, Icy replied, pointing at him. He tore them apart with his bare hands. I saw it. All three hunters turned to stare at Cain with renewed interest. Is this true? Vex asked, skepticism clear in his voice. I killed 6 of them, Cain confirmed. I don't know how, it just happened. Torek studied him for a long moment. Show us. Cain led the hunters back to the clearing where he'd awakened. The bodies of the 6 armored hunters lay where they had fallen. Their blood now dried on the foliage. The hunters circled the scene, examining Clear's throat, the carnage, with expressions of awe and fear. No weapon did this, Vex murmured, kneeling beside one of the bodies. These wounds were made by hands and raw strength. Tug picked up a piece of the shattered armor, testing its strength before looking at Cain with new respect. Our strongest warriors cannot pierce this material, yet you tore it like dried leaves. I don't know how I did it, Cain admitted. When they attacked, something took over, a rage I couldn't control. Lara had been examining the hunters' faces, visible through broken visors. They look like you, she observed, but you claim not to be one of them. I don't know what I am, Cain replied honestly. I have no memories. Before waking in this clearing, the hunters conferred again, this time including I in their discussion. The child spoke animatedly, gesturing toward Cain repeatedly. Finally, Tak approached him. We have decided, he announced. You will come with us back to our village. The elders must hear of this and of your offer to help find Nema and the others. Cain frowned. Every moment we delay sees Mother gets further away. We know where they are taking our people, Tak replied. The metal men have a camp in the Great Flatlands. They have taken many of our kind there over the past season. None have returned. Then why haven't you attacked this camp? Cain demanded. Rescued your people. Their weapons are too powerful, Vex said bitterly. 3 times we have tried. 3 times we have failed with many deaths, but now we have you, Isi interjected, hope shining in her golden eyes. You can fight them. Cain looked at the child, then at the 3 hunters who watched him with a mixture of hope and suspicion. He thought of the rage that had allowed him to tear through armored warriors as if they were Nothing could he control it, he directed against specific targets. Without endangering allies, I'll help you, he said finally, but I need to understand what I'm fighting against. Tell me everything you know about these metal men. As they made their way toward the village, Tak and the others shared what they knew. The metal men had first appeared a full cycle of seasons ago, descending from the sky in loud flying vessels. At first they simply observed, keeping their distance from the tribal territories, but soon they began capturing wildlife, then abducting villagers. They take mostly healers and elders, Lara explained, those with knowledge of our ways and our lands. Nema is our most skilled healer, Tak added. She knows remedies no others have mastered. That is likely why they took her. But why would they want your healers? Kane asked. What value would your medicines have to people with such advanced technology? Our plants have properties found nowhere else, Vex said. Nema discovered a root that can heal wounds overnight, a moss that cures the lung rot, berries that strengthen the heart. Perhaps they want these secrets. Kane absorbed this information, trying to piece together a coherent picture. Highly advanced invaders kidnapping indigenous healers for their botanical knowledge. It seemed strange, but he had no alternative explanation. By nightfall they had made camp in a small clearing. Lara produced fire using a complex method involving certain stones and dried fungus. The warm glow created a small circle of safety in the otherwise pitch-black forest. Icy fell asleep quickly, curled up near the fire. The three hunters took turns watching, with Kane offering to take a shift when the others had drifted off, leaving only Tak and Kane awake. The hunter moved closer to him. You truly remember nothing? He asked quietly. Kane shook his head. Just my name, and even that I'm not sure if it's really mine or something I've been called. Torex stared into the fire. There are stories among our people, tales of warriors created by the star gods, designed to fight their battles, warriors with strength beyond understanding, with fury in their blood. He looked at Kane. Perhaps you are such a creation. The suggestion sent a chill through Kane. Created as a weapon, it would explain your strength, your rage. Tak prodded the fire with a stick. The metal men fear you. I saw it in their equipment. They use capturing tools, not killing tools. They wanted you alive. Kane remembered the darts they had fired, tranquilizers, not lethal projectiles. They had called him Specimen 7, suggesting he was an experiment or test subject rather than an enemy combatant. If I was created as a weapon, Kane said slowly, then who created me and for what purpose? Took had no answer and soon took his place, sleeping near the fire, leaving Kane alone with his troubling thoughts. The journey to the village took most of the following day. As they traveled, the forest gradually thinned, giving way to rolling hills covered in purple-hued grass that swayed in the breeze. Strange six-legged creatures with blue fur bounded through the fields, stopping occasionally to graze. The sky above was a deep turquoise with a yellow sun that seemed slightly smaller than what Kane somehow expected. Ice walked beside him, occasionally skipping to keep up with his long strides. Despite the seriousness of their mission, she maintained a child's capacity for wonder, pointing out interesting plants and animals along the way. Those are jump tails, she explained, indicating the blue-eared grazers. Their meat is good, but they're hard to catch. Very Fast, Cain watched the creatures, noting their powerful hind legs in the way they could change direction in mid leap. How do your hunters catch them? Pit traps, Easy replied, or sometimes many hunters surround them with nets. She looked up at him speculatively, but you could probably just grab one. The idea made Cain smile, his first since awakening. The expression felt strain on his face, as if his muscles weren't accustomed to it. By mid-afternoon they crested a hill to see the village spread out in a valley below. It consisted of perhaps 30 structures, dome-shaped dwellings made from some kind of hardened clay or mud, arranged in a rough circle around a central gathering area. Gardens filled with unfamiliar plants surrounded the village, in a small river curved along one side. Their arrival caused immediate commotion. Green-skinned villagers emerged from their homes, first with expressions of joy at seeing Icy, then with alarm at the sight of Cain. Children were quickly pulled inside while warriors grabbed weapons and formed a defensive line. Tak raised his hands, calling out to his people in their language. Cain couldn't understand the words, but the meaning was clear. Stand down, he's with us. An elderly figure emerged from the largest dwelling, a female with elaborate facial markings and a staff adorned with feathers and small bones. The tribal elder Cain presumed. She approached without fear, her golden eyes faded with age, examining him carefully. I am Sora, elder of the Eastern tribe, she said in the same language Cain and Icy had been speaking. Torek tells me you have offered to help rescue our people from the metal men. Yes, Cain replied simply. Sora circled him, her gaze penetrating. You are like them, yet not like them. Your skin, your form similar, but your eyes. She leaned closer. Your eyes hold something theirs do not. Conflict, pain. I don't remember who I am, Cain admitted, only that I woke in the forest and killed 6 hunters who attacked me. Icy found me and asked for help finding her mother, Nema. Sora nodded. Sadly, our greatest healer, the metal men, have taken many of our wisest members. We believe they seek our knowledge of the land secrets. Torek mentioned a camp in the Great Flatlands. Yes, a place of strange structures and powerful weapons. 3 rescue attempts have failed. Many warriors died. She gestured to several villagers whose bodies bore evidence of unusual wounds. Perfectly circular burns, limbs missing entirely. Their fire sticks cause great damage. Fire sticks? Cain asked. Male warrior stepped forward, displaying a weapon unlike anything Cain had seen. In the hunter's possession, a long, tube-like device with a handle and trigger mechanism. They point. There is light and noise, and death follows. The warrior explained grimly, from far away. They can kill. Projectile weapons. Cain realized guns of some kind. The hunters who had attacked him hadn't used such weapons, only spears and tranquilizer darts. Why the difference? The metal men who attacked me didn't use these fire sticks, he told Sora. They tried to capture me, not kill me. The Ellers's expression turned thoughtful. Interesting. Perhaps they value you differently than they value us, or fear you more. Torek added. Sora made a decision. You will rest tonight, eat, regain your strength. Tomorrow our best warriors will guide you to the Metalmen's camp. If you can help us rescue our people, the Eastern tribe will be forever in your debt. Cain agreed, though privately he wondered if a single night's preparation was enough. He had no idea how many metal Men occupied the camp, how it was defended, or what kinds of weapons they might face, but Ike's hopeful expression, as she spoke with the other children about her mother's imminent return, steeled his resolve he would find a way. That evening the tribe shared their modest resources with him. The food was strange but satisfying. On roasted meat from a recent hunt, tubers cooked in clay ovens, and a bitter tea that Sarah claimed would strengthen the spirit. Cain ate mechanically, his mind occupied with planning the rescue. After the meal, several warriors approached him, led by a scarred male named Kroll. They brought weapons, spears tipped with a blue-black metal, bows with arrows whose points glistened with some kind of substance, and knives fashioned from what appeared to be teeth or claws. Our best weapons, Kroll explained, offering them to Cain. Against normal enemies they serve well, against the metal men, he shrugged. Better than nothing. Cain examined each weapon, testing its balance and sharpness. He selected a spear and a knife, leaving the bow. His instincts told him he was better suited to close combat than ranged attacks. "Thank you," he told Kroll and the others. "I'll make good use of these." As the village settled for the night, Icy found Cain sitting alone at the edge of the settlement, staring up at the night sky. Two moons hung in the darkness, one large and pale, the other smaller with a bluish tinge. "That's Torah and little Torah," he said, pointing at the moons. "Mother says they're sisters who watch over us while the great light sleeps." Cain nodded, making room for the child to sit beside him. "Your mother sounds wise." "She's the wisest," I agreed fervently. "She knows everything about plants and animals and healing. She was teaching me before the metal men took her." Her small face grew solemn. "Do you think she's all right?" "I'm sure she is," Cain replied, though he had no way of knowing. These metal men seemed to value knowledge. They wouldn't harm someone with your mother's skills. I seemed satisfied with this answer. "Tomorrow you'll save her, I know it." Her confidence was absolute, unburdened by the doubts that plagued Cain. "I'll do everything I can," he promised. The child yawned, her small body swaying with fatigue. Without thinking, Cain picked her up, carrying her back to the dwelling she shared with another family. Since her mother's abduction, she fell asleep in his arms before they reached the door, trusting him completely. Despite having known him for barely 2 days, the weight of that trust settled heavily on Cain's shoulders as he returned to his position at the village edge. Who was he to promise rescue? What if his rage failed him when needed? What if there were too many enemies, too well armed? But as he looked back at the peaceful village, at the people who had welcomed him despite their fear, he knew he had to try, not just for Easy and her mother, but for all of them. These green-skinned people threatened by invaders with technology they couldn't hope to match. Perhaps this was why he had awakened here on this strange world. Perhaps this was his purpose. With that thought, Cain began to prepare mentally and physically for the coming day. The journey to the Great Flatlands began at dawn. Cain traveled with a group of 6 warriors, including Tak and Kroll. They moved swiftly across the purple plains, no longer bothering with stealth. Speed was now their priority. The metal men took 14 of our people in the last raid, Tak explained as they traveled. Nema was the most valuable to them, but they also took Ilar, our astronomer Vin, who studies animal behavior, and several apprentice healers. All knowledge keepers, Cain observed, never warriors. Or hunters, never Kroll confirmed, they want our minds, not our strength. By midday, they reached the edge of a vast plateau. Below stretched the great flatlands, an expanse of reddish clay, dotted with circular pools of steaming water and tall chimney-like rock formations. In the distance, Kane could see an unnatural collection of structures, geometric shapes that stood out starkly against the organic landscape. Their camp, Torque said, pointing, will approach from the eastern side where the steam pools provide cover. They descended the plateau via a narrow path, moving carefully to avoid loose rocks that might betray their presence. As they drew closer to the camp, Kane could make out more details. A perimeter marked by tall posts topped with lights, several dome-shaped buildings, and what appeared to be a landing area for aerial vehicles. Guards patrolled in regular patterns there, armor gleaming in the sunlight. How many? Kane asked, counting at least 20 visible guards. More inside, Kroll replied grimly. Perhaps 50 in total. 50 against 7. Not good odds even with Kane's abilities. They needed a strategy beyond simple frontal assault. Tell me about previous rescue attempts, Kane requested as they took shelter behind a rock formation. What went wrong? The warriors exchanged glances. Torek spoke first. The first time we tried stealth, our best scouts reached the edge of their camp, but something detected them. Lights, noise, then guards with fire sticks. Only 2 returned. The second time, Kroll continued, we attacked at night from multiple directions. We thought we might overwhelm them with numbers, but they have lights that turn night to day and weapons that can kill many with one strike. We lost 11 warriors. The third attempt, Kane prompted, we tried to lure them out. Another warrior explained, set fire to the grasslands near their water source. They sent flying machines that dropped water from above. We never even engaged them directly. Kane considered this information. Direct confrontation had failed. Stealth had failed. Distraction had failed. They needed something the metal men wouldn't expect. We need to get inside, he decided. Not fight our way in, but enter undetected. Impossible, Kroll scoffed. They have invisible barriers that detect movement. Sensors, Kane muttered, the term coming to him from nowhere. They must have a blind spot or vulnerability. He studied the camp layout more carefully. The perimeter posts were evenly spaced, creating a complete circle around the structures. Guards walked regular routes overlapping their coverage. The main entrance appeared heavily defended, but there on the far side, near what looked like waste disposal units, he noticed something. The posts were slightly further apart, and the patrol pattern left a brief gap. In surveillance there, Kane pointed. That's our way in. Torek squinted in the direction indicated. The distance between barriers is the same, but the guard's pattern leaves a 3-second window where that section is unwatched. Kane explained, not questioning how he could calculate this so precisely. If we time it right, one person could slip through. One person, Kroll repeated skeptically. You mean yourself? Kane nodded. I'll enter alone, find our people and create a distraction to cover our escape. The rest of you wait here, ready to assist. Once we're outside the perimeter, the warriors argued briefly themselves. Talk finally turned to Kane. It's too dangerous. If you're captured or killed, we lose our best weapon against them, and if we clear's throat, all attack together, will be detected. Immediately, Kane countered, "This is our best chance." After further discussion, they reluctantly agreed to Kane's plan. They would wait until nightfall, when the darkness would provide additional cover. As the sun began to set, painting the red landscape in deepening shades of purple and blue, Kane prepared himself. He discarded the tribal weapons which would only slow him down. His greatest assets were his speed, strength, and the rage that seemed to enhance both. "If I'm not back by dawn," he told the warriors, "return to the village, protect your people as best you can." Torek closed his arm in a warrior's grip. "May the sister moons guide your path." When full darkness fell, Kane began his approach. He moved silently across the open ground, using rock formations and steam pools for cover. The camp's lights created pools of harsh illuminations, separated by deep shadows. He used these shadows, timing his movements between guard patrols with precision. The perimeter was marked by faintly humming posts connected by an invisible energy field. Kane could feel it, a subtle vibration in the air that raised the hairs on his arms. He positioned himself near the gap he'd identified, watching the guard patterns. 3 guards patrolled this section, their routes creating a brief moment when all 3 had their backs turned. Kane counted their steps, calculating the timing. When the moment came, he moved. He slipped between 2 posts, feeling the energy field tingle across his skin but not trigger any alarm. He was inside, moving from shadow to shadow. Kane approached the central dome, the largest structure in the camp. 2 guards stood at its entrance, alert but unsuspecting. He circled around, looking for another way in. On the far side, he found a smaller door, perhaps a service entrance. Only 1 guard stood watch here. Kane picked up a small stone and threw it, creating a distraction. When the guard turned to investigate, Kane struck. His hand covered the guard's mouth while his other arm locked around the helmeted head. With a sharp twist, he felt the neck snap beneath the armor. He lowered the body silently to the ground. The door was secured with some kind of locking mechanism, a panel with strange symbols. Kane examined it, frustrated. Then on impulse, he pressed the guard's gloved hand against it. The panel glowed green and the door slid open. Inside, quarters lit with blue light stretched in multiple directions. Kane moved cautiously, listening for any sound that might guide him. From somewhere deeper in the facility, he heard voices, not muffled by helmets now but clear. Sample analysis confirms it's definitely from Specimen 7. The genetic markers are unmistakable. How did it survive the crash? That drop should have killed anything you've seen. The resilience test. This thing was designed to withstand extreme trauma. Kane froze. Were they talking about him? What about the indigenous specimens we collected? Fascinating cellular structure. Their adaptation to the environment is remarkable. The healing properties in the female's blood alone could revolutionize our medical capabilities, and the weapon applications endless if we can incorporate their regenerative abilities into Specimen 7's already enhanced genome. Kane moved closer to the voices, finding himself before a large viewing window. Beyond it was a laboratory of some kind. Men and women in white garments moved between tables holding equipment Kane didn't recognize, and strapped to examination tables were several green-skinned people, unconscious or sedated. On the Nearest table lay a woman with intricate markings on her face similar to the patterns Icy had drawn in the dirt when describing her mother. Nema Ray bubbled up inside Kane, threatening to overwhelm his senses again. He fought to control it. Blind fury would get him, and the prisoners killed. He scanned the room, noting the positions of the researchers, looking for weapons. None of them appeared armed, but a guard stood by a far door. Kane spotted a control panel near his position. Acting on instinct, he smashed his fist into it. Sparks flew and the lights in the laboratory flickered. Alarms began to wail. "Security breach in Sector 3, shouted one of the researchers as they scrambled in confusion. Kane smashed through the viewing window. Glass shattered around him, but he felt no pain as shards sliced his skin. He landed in the center of the laboratory, already moving toward Nema's table. The guard raised a weapon, not a spear this time, but a small handheld device. Dart shot out, striking Kane in the shoulder. He felt a momentary sting, then a spreading numbness. He staggered, but kept moving. Tranquilizer ineffective, the guard shouted, backing away. Kane reached Nema's table and tore through her restraints. Her eyes fluttered open, golden-like eyes. "Who?" she murmured. "I've come to take you back to your daughter," Kane replied, already moving to free the other captives. More guards rushed into the laboratory. One shouted, "Contains Specimen 7, non-lethal. Measures only." Specimen 7, the name sent a chill through Kane's spine, even as the rage built within him. The first guard to reach him fired another dart. Kane dodged and closed the distance between them in an instant. He grabbed the weapon and crushed it, then threw the guard across the room. The others hesitated. "Evacuate the lab," ordered one of the researchers. "Initiate containment protocol." As they fled, Kane freed the remaining prisoners, 14 in total, including Nema. Most were barely conscious, moving sluggishly as the effects of sedation lingered. "Can you walk?" he asked Nema, who seemed the most alert. She nodded, her gaze sharp. "Despite her weakened state, you are not one of them." "Not Clear's throat one of us either. We need to leave now." Kane helped her to her feet, then assisted the others. The alarms continued to blare as they made their way through the corridors. Guards appeared at every intersection, but Kane moved with deadly efficiency, disabling them before they could bring their weapons to bear. Green-skinned prisoners watched him with a mixture of fear and awe. They found an exit, not the one Kane had entered through, but a larger door that opened onto a loading area. Beyond it, the perimeter fence gleamed in the moonlight. "The barrier will shock us if we touch it," Nema warned, her voice gaining strength. Kane looked around and spotted a transport vehicle, a flat, hovering platform loaded with containers. "We'll use that," he helped the prisoners onto the platform, then examined the controls again. Instinct guided his hands. The vehicle hummed to life under his touch. "Hold on," he instructed, then sent the platform accelerating toward the fence. Guards shouted behind them. Something whizzed past Kane's head, another dart, then something else, a bright flash of energy that scorched the air where he had been moments before. They were using the fire sticks now. The hovering platform crashed into the fence at full speed. There was a blinding flash as energy discharged, but the momentum carried them through. The vehicle systems failed as they cleared the perimeter, sending them skidding across the red clay. Run! For the plateau, Kane ordered, helping the still weakened prisoners to their feet. They fled into the darkness, pursued by shouts and the beams of searching lights. Kane stayed at the rear, watching for pursuers, ready to buy the others time if necessary. Squad of guards emerged from the camp. Weapons raised, energy bolts tore through the night, striking the ground. Around the fleeing prisoners, one hit a male healer in the leg, sending him crashing to the ground with a cry of pain. Kane rushed back, lifting the injured healer onto his shoulder without slowing. Another energy bolt grazed his arm, burning through fabric and skin. Pain flared, but the wound began healing almost immediately. Ahead, Tak and the other warriors emerged from their hiding places, providing covering fire with their bows. The arrows couldn't penetrate the guards' armor, but they created enough distraction to slow the pursuit. This way, Torque shouted, leading them toward a different path up the plateau, steeper but more sheltered from weapons fire. The group scrambled up the incline, the weakened prisoners struggling with the difficult terrain. Kane and the warriors helped them, forming a protective rear guard as they climbed. Something on the ground caught Kane's eye, a small device dislodged from the transport during their crash. Through the fence, he scooped it up without breaking stride, sensing it might contain valuable information. They reached the top of the plateau as the first light of dawn appeared on the horizon. The guards had fallen back, unwilling to pursue them into the rocky highlands where their technological advantages were diminished. We did it, Torque said, disbelief evident in his voice. We actually rescued them all. Kane surveyed the freed prisoners, 14 green-skinned healers and Nala keepers, including Nima. All had survived, though several bore injuries from their captivity and escape. We need to keep moving, he said. They'll send flying machines to search for us. Once it's fully light, Nima approached him, her golden eyes studying him with the penetrating gaze of a healer. You're injured, she observed, noting the energy weapon burn on his arm. King glanced at the wound, which was already closing. It's nothing, no ordinary being heals so quickly, Nema said, her voice low enough that only he could hear. What are you? I don't know, Kane admitted, but I'm trying to find out. They traveled for hours following game trails through the highlands to avoid open ground where they might be spotted from the air. Occasionally they heard the distant hum of flying machines, but the densely wooded hills provided adequate cover. By late afternoon, exhaustion began to take its toll on the freed prisoners. Many had been weakened by their captivity, and the relentless pace was draining their remaining strength. We need to rest, Nema told Kane. Some won't make it to the village without recovery time. He nodded reluctantly. 1 hour, then we keep moving. They found shelter in a cave system, a series of interconnected chambers that offered protection from both the elements and aerial search. As the others settled, Nema treated the wounded with herbs she had gathered along the way, applying picuses to energy burns and administering bitter-smelling teas to those suffering from exhaustion. Kane kept watch at the cave entrance, scanning the skies for pursuit. Took joined him, offering a water pouch. You've done what no one thought possible, the warrior said as Kane drank. Rescued our people from the heart of the Metalmen's camp. We're not safe yet, Kane replied, returning the pouch. They'll keep searching. Why do they want you so badly? Tak asked. They called you Specimen 7. What does that mean? Kane examined the device he had recovered during their escape. It appeared to be some kind of data recorder, damaged but possibly still functional. I think this might tell us, he said, while the others rested. Kane worked to activate the device. His fingers moved with surprising familiarity over its controls, as if he had used similar technology before. Eventually, a flickering holographic display appeared above it, damaged and fragmented but visible. A face formed in the light, a man with stern features and gray hair. His voice came through, broken and distorted. Project Guardian. Final report. Specimen 7 represents the culmination of 15 years of genetic engineering. Enhanced strength, speed, durability, and regeneration have all exceeded parameters. However, aggression levels remain uncontrollable despite neural programming. The image flickered. Skipping ahead, crash of transport. Vessel NC-17 on exoplanet designated KDR-5 has compromised the mission. Specimen 7. Container breach during impact. Search teams dispatched, but indigenous population complicates recovery efforts. Another skip. Confirmed sightings indicate Specimen 7 has survived and is active. Snorts extreme caution. Advised, while designed for combat against the Corvian threat without proper control measures, Specimen 7 represents a danger to all life forms. Recovery or termination authorized. The recording continued, revealing more fragmented information. Genetic hybridization using indigenous DNA might stabilize the aggression response. Preliminary tests on Subject 12 is show promising results. If successful, this could solve the control issue that has plagued Project Guardian from the start. Ethical considerations have been overridden by Central Command. The Corvian advance on the outer colonies leaves us no choice. Conventional forces cannot match their physical capabilities. Only specimens like 7 stand a chance. The recording ended, the light fading as the device's remaining power depleted. Silence fell over the cave. All had stopped to watch the recording, and all now stared at Kane with new understanding. Nema was the first to speak. They created you as a weapon, she said softly, against these Corvians, whoever they are. And now, they're trying to use our people, our biology, to control him, added Barr, the astronomer. Subject 12, Kane said, looking at Nema. That must be you. The healer nodded grimly. They took samples of my blood, my tissue, many tests. Kane stood, his hands trembling, not with fear but with rage. The truth confirmed what he had suspected. He was not human, not natural. He had been created as a living weapon designed to kill another species he knew nothing about. And now, these metal men, humans presumably, were experimenting on the indigenous population to perfect their control over him. We need to move, he said, pushing aside his turmoil. Now they resumed their journey, moving more cautiously as they approached tribal lands. Twice they spotted flying machines in the distance and took cover until the threat passed. By nightfall they had reached the purple grasslands surrounding the village. Caution, Tak warned as they prepared for the final leg of their journey. The metal men may have sent forces to the village, expecting us to return there. Kane nodded. I'll scout ahead. He moved silently through the tall grass, approaching the village from downwind. As he drew closer, he detected unusual movement. Figures that didn't move like the green-skinned natives. Armored figures, guards, the metal men, had indeed anticipated their route. Squad of at least 10 had surrounded the village, holding the remaining population hostage while they waited for the escaped prisoners to return. Kane retreated to where the others waited. The village is under guard, he reported, at least 10 armed metal men. Our families, one of the freed healers, gasped, our children, we need a plan. Torque said, looking to Kane, we can't abandon our people, but a direct attack would risk their lives. Kane considered their options. How many warriors remain in the village? Perhaps 20, Kroll replied, but they will be disarmed and under watch. And how many total? Villagers, over 100, Nema said. Many children, too many innocent lives at risk for a frontal assault. They needed subtlety, not strength. I have an idea, Kane said, but it's dangerous and I'll need your help. He outlined his plan. Kane would allow himself to be captured, creating a distraction that would draw the guards' attention. The tribal warriors would position themselves around the village perimeter, ready to attack at a signal. Nema and the other healers would prepare their most potent defensive herbs and poisons. Once inside, I'll create enough chaos to break their control, Kane explained. When you hear my signal, a roar louder than any animal, attack from all sides. They'll kill you before you can do anything, Talk objected. They want me alive, Kane reminded him. That's why they've used tranquilizers instead of lethal weapons against me. They need me for their war. After much debate, they agreed to the plan, though reluctantly. As the others prepared, Nema approached Kane privately. This plan risks your freedom to save our people, she observed. Why would you sacrifice yourself for us? Kane looked toward the distant village, thinking of EC waiting there, perhaps frightened under guard. Because it's my choice, he replied simply, and maybe the first real choice I've ever made. Nema pressed something into his hand, a small pouch containing a dark powder. Crush this in your mouth. When the moment comes, she instructed, it will clear the effects of their sleep. Darts, at least temporarily. With preparations complete, Kane shed all weapons and began his approach to the village. He walked openly across the grassland, making no attempt at stealth. It didn't take long for the guards to spot him. Target sighted, one called out. Specimen 7 approaching from the south. They rushed to intercept him, weapons raised but not firing. As Kane had predicted, they wanted him alive. Halt and surrender, ordered the lead guard, aiming a tranquilizer gun at Kane's chest. Kane raised his hand. Slowly, I surrender, take me to your commander. The guards surrounded him, securing his wrist with energy restraints that bit into his skin. They marched him into the village where the inhabitants were being held in the central gathering area, surrounded by more guards. Among the frightened villagers, Kane spotted the girl's eyes widened when she saw him, but he gave a subtle shake of his head, warning her to remain quiet. A figure emerged from the largest dwelling, not a guard, but a scientist wearing the white garments Kane had seen in the laboratory, a female with sharp features and cold eyes. Specimen 7, she said, approaching without fear. You've led us on quite a chase. My name is Kane, he replied defiantly. A name? How interesting. You've developed a sense of identity. She circled him, examining him as one might examine a prize animal. Where are the escaped subjects? Gone. No, somewhere you'll never find them. The scientist smiled thinly. It doesn't matter, we have what we need from them already, and now we have you, the culmination of Project Guardian, our greatest achievement. I'm not your achievement, Kane growled. I'm not your weapon, but you are, she countered. Created specifically to combat the Corvian threat, enhanced strength, speed, regeneration, all designed for warfare. You are the perfect soldier. Then why can't you control me? Kane asked, buying time as he observed the guards' positions in the villager situation. The scientist's expression tightened. A temporary setback. One we're close to solving, thanks to the indigenous subjects. She gestured to a guard. Prepare him for transport. Maximum sedation protocol. As guards approached with multiple dart guns, Kane tensed. Not yet. He needed to wait until all attention was on him. You're making a mistake, he said loudly, ensuring all the villagers could hear. I'm not the threat you should be worried about. Oh, the scientist raised an eyebrow. And what should concern me more than an unstable military asset? The people whose world you've invaded, Kane replied. The people whose knowledge you've stolen, whose families you've torn apart. He looked directly at Asawi. As he spoke, the people who will never stop fighting for their freedom. The girl's eyes shone with understanding. She whispered something to those around her who passed the message along. Charming sentiment, the scientist said, dismissively, but ultimately irrelevant. This planet is a resource, nothing more. You're wrong, Kane said, and then as the guards closed in with their weapons, he made his move. He bit down hard on the pouch Nema had given him, feeling the bitter powder flood his mouth. At the same instant, he strained against the energy restraints with all his strength. They were designed to contain normal humans, not a genetically enhanced weapon. The restraints shattered. The guards fired their darts, multiple projectiles striking Kane. The chest and arms. He felt the familiar numbness begin to spread, but the powder from Nema's pouch burned through his system, counteracting the sedative with a roar that echoed across the village. The signal his allies were waiting for. Kane unleashed the rage he had been controlling. He moved like lightning, disarming the nearest guards before they could react. Tranquilizer guns went flying, armor cracked under his powerful blows. The villagers, prepared by ECs, whispered warnings scattered in all directions, clearing the way for the warriors who now attacked from the perimeter. Arrows flew, striking the joints and exposed areas of the guards' armor. From hiding places throughout the village, the remaining warriors emerged, wielding clubs and spears. Kane focused on the scientist, who was retreating toward what appeared to be a small transport vehicle. He caught her before she could reach it, lifting her by the throat. Call them off, he demanded. Order your people to stand down. Fear replaced the cold calculation in her eyes. She activated a communication device on her wrist. All units stand down. Ceasefire immediately. The guards hesitated, looking to each other for confirmation. Drop your weapons, Kane ordered, or watch your commander die. Slowly, the remaining guards lowered their weapons. The village warriors quickly moved to secure them, using their own restraints against them. From the surrounding grasslands, Nema talked, and the others emerged, joining the battle's aftermath. I broke away from the crowd, running to her mother with a cry of joy. Mother, mother, you're safe. Nema embraced her daughter, tears streaming down her green-skinned face. Yes, little one, I'm home, Cain maintained his grip on the scientist. Now you're going to answer some questions I don't negotiate with. Equipment, she spat, though fear undermined her defiance. I'm not equipment, Cain replied calmly. I'm the one deciding whether you leave this planet alive, the scientists revealed what Cain had already begun to suspect. From the data recorder, a war was raging between humans and the Corvians, an alien race with natural armor and regenerative abilities. Project Guardian had been humanity's response, with Cain as their most successful but uncontrollable creation, and the indigenous population, Cain demanded. Their cellular structure has unique properties, particularly the healers. She admitted, we hope to incorporate these traits to create a more stable version of you. Cain exchanged glances. With Nema, you experimented on them for the greater good, the scientist insisted. The Corvians would destroy humanity without weapons like you. That's not my war, Cain said, and these aren't your test subjects. With the guards secured, Cain gathered the tribal leaders to decide what to do with their prisoners. The debate was heated. Some called for execution, others for using the captives as hostages to prevent further attacks. In the end, they reached a decision that Cain supported. The metal men would be released, but with a message: they would leave this planet and its people in peace or face consequences far worse than today's defeat. Tell your commanders, Cain instructed the scientist as she and her guards were escorted to their transport vehicle, that this world is protected by me and by its people. Any further attempts to capture or experiment on the indigenous population will be met with force. They won't stop, she warned. You're too valuable an asset. Then they'll learn what it truly means to face an enemy they can't control, Cain replied, because next time I won't show mercy. The transport departed, rising into the turquoise sky until it disappeared from view. The villagers celebrated their victory and the return of their captured kin, but Cain remained vigilant. He knew this wasn't the end, merely a temporary reprieve. That evening, as the celebration continued around the village's central fire, Sora approached. Cain, the elder, carried a ceremonial staff adorned with new symbols, representations of Cain's actions in rescuing their people, the Eastern tribe. Names you friend and protector, she announced, presenting him with a necklace made from the blue-black metal of their finest weapons. Your strength is now our strength, your enemies our enemies. Cain accepted the gift with solemn gratitude. I'll do everything in my power to keep your people safe. Later, as the festivities wound down, Nema found him sitting alone at the village edge, staring up at the twin moons. The elders have offered you a dwelling, she said, settling beside him. A place among us. I can't stay, Cain replied. Not permanently. As long as I'm here, your people will be in danger. The metal men will return with greater forces next time, so you will leave. Go where? Cain considered this. I need to understand more about what I am about. This war I was created for. There might be others like me out there, and if you find these answers, what then? Then I'll make another choice, he said simply. Nema nodded, understanding. Until that day comes, you have a home here. She looked back at the village where Issy was showing other children how to make necklaces like the one Cain had received, and people who see you as more than a weapon. Cain watched the green skinned child who had found him in the forest, who had seen past his violence. To something worth saving, I'll return. He promised, whenever you need me. I followed Cain like a shadow during his time in the village, learning everything she could from the mighty man who had saved her mother. A week after the battle, scouts returned with surprising news. The Metalmen's camp in the Great Flatlands was being dismantled, their flying machines loaded with equipment and personnel, their leaving tech reported, eyes wide with disbelief. All of them, for now, Cain cautioned. They'll return eventually, or others will come. Kroll clasped Cain's shoulder. When they do, they'll find us stronger than before. On the morning Cain prepared to depart, the entire village gathered to bid him farewell. He had decided to explore the crash site, where he had presumably been freed from stasis, a location the tribal astronomer Alar had identified, based on stories of a falling star several months earlier. You will find answers there, Ar told him, perhaps even a way to contact your kind. They're not my kind, Cain replied. Not anymore. I approached her small face solemn. Will you come back, mighty man? Cain knelt to her level. I promise, and when I do, I'll have stories to tell you about what I found. The child threw her arms around his neck in a fierce hug. I'll practice my healing while you're gone, she whispered, so I can help you like mother does. Nema pressed a pouch of medicines into his hand. For your journey, and to remind you that you have a home here.